such as computer files. It could be accessed online. Digital repositories provide centralized hosting of and access to content. The ability to share digital objects and files and set permissions and controls for content and protect the integrity and intellectual property rights of content owners and creators. Formats of electronic material. Now CD-ROMs are there, is a pre-pressed optical compact disc that contains data. And DVD, digital versatile disc, is a digital optical disc storage. DVDs offer higher storage capacity than compact disc while having the same dimensions. And server. A computer server is a specialized computer or software program that provides resources, data, or precious documents which maybe we love so much, but knowingly or unknowingly, we might be harming them. And also, books may suffer from neglect, improper handling, and careless handling. Photocopying without due care contributes to damage. And first aid treatment of damaged documents by unqualified persons using unsuitable materials and unsuitable adhesive can aggravate that damage. Chemical deterioration due to raw materials used in manufacturing process. I especially focus attention here mainly on paper-based material, and raw materials which used in paper making, normally cellulose, hemicellulose, lignin, and there are added materials like coatings, fillers, and loadings, and also sizing agents. So those material and the process which we use for manufacturing, there are chemicals which you use, and these compositions are chemical compositions. So because of those materials, there are possibilities that in the long run, there could be formation of acids from these raw materials, although they are in composition after manufacturing. Because of acid formations and hydrolysis and oxidation, there are processes so much which leads to deterioration. And also, dust could abrade the document, and it leads to absorption of polluted air if available in storage areas. Pollutants in storage areas such as sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxide, evolve acidic components such as sulfuric acid and nitric acid. And sunlight with UV rays, ultraviolet rays, harm the components. Exposure to light causes fading of dyes, inks, and pigments, can contribute to the aging and embrittlement of paper. Also, lignin will break down and produce discoloration of documents. I wonder whether you all have thought, when you have an old newspaper and look at it, you see it's been off-colored, not that white as usual, like a new newspaper. Because these newspapers are made out of mechanical wood pulp or ground wood pulp, where you have lignin as a component, and with UV rays, they get break down and produce colored byproducts. So because of that, with light, if you want to test it by yourself, take a piece of two pieces of the same paper and keep one near the window and the other one on your table, and after a week you check the two pieces and see the difference of color, that you could see that lignin has been broken down, and that piece near the window was completely yellowish. And all kinds of light are harmful, but ultraviolet radiation is particularly damaging paper documents. And heat accelerates deterioration. Normally it says if the temperature is 10 degrees higher, then the lifespan of document would be, give me a minute, I'll take some water. Sorry. If it's the temperature is higher for 10 degrees Celsius, then the lifetime of the document would reduce by half. So high temperature could cause quite a grave damage. And high relative humidity provides the moisture necessary to promote harmful chemical reactions. Extremely low relative humidity, which can occur in dry climates, may lead to desiccation and brittlement of some materials. Fluctuation in temperature and relative humidity are also damaging. Especially with the change of relative humidity, absorption of water vapors and evaporation of water vapors vary depending on the temperature and the humidity of the climate. So because of that, contraction and expansion of these documents happen, and dimensional changes would occur, which leads to the deterioration. And chemically deteriorated documents, you could see the acid patches and foxing patches, and they have been created because of chemical reactions. And also look at this document. We call it ink corrosion because these writings are being corroded. Normally those days during British period, they have used iron gold ink to write these documents using stylus pen. And this iron gold ink, it has many acidic components. So because of that, with time, they have become deteriorated and they have been corroded. So because of that, we identify this defect as ink corrosion. And biological deterioration due to microorganisms and insects and rodents. Microorganisms, fungi, bacteria, fungi and bacteria play an important role in the hydrolysis of cellulose and proteinous materials. And there could be many fungi species, Alternaria, Monalia, Aspergillus, Penicillium, Muco, and so on. All these species tend to decompose cellulose, which leads to weaken the fiber structure while they live and feed on paper materials. Like for an example, if one has a cancer, cancer develops inside us, but we become weak because it absorbs all our nutrition and they grow up inside us. But we become weak, and so likewise, when the fungi is on our records, what happens? They they sit on this paper material and they try to absorb cellulose, and normally taken cellulose as their food. So because of that, they absorb all the strength from the document, and the document become fragile. And also, bacteria decompose cellulose in paper. The common bacteria are Staphylococcus aureus and Bacillus subtilis. They are very common on paper material. And you could see the documents which have been attacked by fungi. And there are Aspergillus, Penicillium, and different varieties. You could identify them if you look at them under a microscope. And there are the spores in different shapes. You could see how they look. And the other biological agents are insects and rodents. Insects cause typical different shaped bite marks, which occur when insects use them as food source. Insects make irreversible damages. High humidity, poor air circulation, poor housekeeping is beneficial to insects. And see how they look when the insects have been attacked, the documents. And there are subterranean termites. They are small yellowish or whitish social insects that live in wood and under the ground. In books, they produce deep crater-shaped holes or deep irregularly shaped erosions. And drywood termites. They feed on wood, paper, cardboard, and other cellulose-containing material. And silverfish, damage done by silverfish. You could see how it looks. And cockroaches, nocturnal insects that have reddish-brown color, and fetid dodo, cause superficial erosion of irregular outline, a blackish comma-shaped mark on paper, and it is a positive indication of the presence of cockroach. And can you remember when we were small, when we were using pencils in our small age, and we used to erase with erasers if something went wrong. And if the eraser was not good, we used to wipe them very hard, and ultimately we see that the paper gets smudged, and sometimes we make holes. So if a book cover, if you see a smart mark like that, then definitely there are cockroaches around. And book lice, small soft-bodied insects that have relatively large heads, fairly long antennae, and strong toothed mandibles cause tiny superficial erosions of irregular outline to paper. Leather, gelatin, or photographic plates, watercolors, parchments, and other book bindings. And these book lice are very active. And if you see a book lice in 1 second, you cannot see them because they are very fast. They hide somewhere. So it's very difficult to locate them actually. And bookworms, beetles found in collections generally called bookworms. They make circular tunnels which generally extend from the edges to the item's center. The most common species in collections in Sri Lanka are cigarette beetles and biscuit beetles. They cause irregular shaped, sometimes surface tunnels containing powdery excrement and cast off larva skins on books and other organic materials. And you could see cigarette beetle and biscuit beetle, how they look. And rodents, rat, mice, and squirrel are belonging to rodent group. Squirrel in general do not harm documents. Rats and mice are typical examples of harmful rodents, which cause damage particularly to the exterior parts of manuscripts through bites. If materials are stored in storage, which hardly check, damage will occur by rodents. And I put this picture just to show you that the difference, how to find out mouse and a rat. I mean, they differ, but we always call Mia, Mia and all that, but they are two different versions anyway. And there are different features for both, so easily could be identified. And other major factor is accidents, flood and fire. There could be flood, tornado, earthquakes, and tsunami. Flood is one of the most damaging factors for documents. Waterlogged documents swell and become out of shape. Fungi will grow on water-damaged documents, and flood-damaged documents look like this. And also, I mean, we had an experience of tsunami. You could see this is these photographs were taken from tsunami photographic collection purchased from a person. That's a purchase collection at the National Archives. I mean, there are no documents you could see here, but it is well-known fact that many libraries have been affected and many government officers have been affected by tsunami, and lot of documents have been suffered, and some government documents have been restored, but some of them couldn't. And also fire. Fire is another accidental agent which damages the documents, as they are organic in nature and easily flammable. Fire can set up accidentally in the storage areas due to faulty use of electrical equipment inside and fault in electric wiring. In severe cases, it can cause complete destruction of collection as fire spreads rapidly. And see how they are dangerous. And deterioration of palm leaf manuscripts with time. Time is running out, so I'm going to go fast. Deterioration of palm leaf manuscripts, with time they become brittle, fading and weak. Wear and tear is there. The causes which create the above conditions, light, relative humidity, heat, and temperature, polluted environment, bad handling and improper storage. Light also could cause photochemical degradation. Relative humidity also could cause hydrolysis of these raw materials. Heat and temperature increases the oxidation and hydrolysis. And audiovisual material damages, I don't say audiovisual materials deteriorated, because they hardly deteriorate, but there are damages and problems. There are common damages as well as special problems related to different types of audiovisual material. Common damages and problems: fungi, slightest damage to a recording filming immediately results in a loss of information. Careless handling would lead to damage. The loss of quality through normal use. Wear and tear depends on various factors. Above all, on the condition and adjustment of the equipment used for recording. And print through is another damage which we come across. Generally undesirable effect that arises in the use of magnetic tape for storing analog information, in particular music, information erasure, loss of information, and special problems for photographs, fading of color, microforms, instability, and cinefilm defects. There are many, you can see them. And audio tapes and cassettes. The modern magnetic coating have the ability to retain the recorded information for an infinite period. The recorded information would not weaken with age, but there are defects. You could see them, tape damage and cinching, tape contamination and all that. Audio disc defects, breakable and warped and scratched. And videotape and cassettes, there are defects, many. Those are actually technical jargon, so I'm not going to tell you what those are. And electronic records have problems. Formats become obsolete and erasure of information could happen. Now, when the material have been deteriorated, what should we do? We have to conserve them. Now, how are we going to conserve? When the paper-based documents are deteriorated, it is necessary to conserve them. In conservation, it could be first aid, minor repair, and restoration. Care and first aid, collection care should be a core element of any library and archives, even in personal collections. Care in handling will reduce the amount of costly conservation work needed, and first aid for books and volumes, for minor mending or to rebinding, and even boxing or digitizing when the paper becomes too brittle to repair or use. Any treatment applied to a book or manuscript should be reversible, meaning it can be undone easily at a later date. And restoration, scientific intervention of stabilizing and strengthening a document, retaining its original format. In restoration, quality material and NLR or GPR grade chemicals are needed for proper restoration process. Documents have to be used, hence restoration treatments need to be applied for deteriorated documents. Without restoration, it is unable to use deteriorated documents. Normally, National Archives, National Libraries, even in private collections, these documents have to be used. So these places are knowledge hubs actually. People come for information. So that's why we have personal collection of books, because whenever we need some information, we go for our library, I mean personal library, and see the information. So likewise, these, when they get deteriorated, we have to conserve them, otherwise you cannot use them. So in restoration of documents, you see that documentation to be done and pagination if the page numbers are not there, and then hand repairing could be done using deacidification, and then there will be handmade paper using for gap filling, and then tissues have been laid over for strengthening the document. In addition to hand repairing, there is another technique called leaf casting. Leaf casting is being done using a leaf casting machine. There you get paper pulp and dissolve in water. With the pressure, you tend to suction the water, and then pulp would get into the places where you have holes in the document. And it is again a good method. And after repairing, you do guarding and then trimming and then do the binding. And this is how a repaired volume would look like. And pest control methods, low temperature methods, carbon dioxide treatments, nitrogen treatment, all these are little cumbersome because you need certain special equipment. Even for fumigation with toxic gases, you need a special apparatus or special chamber. But normally National Archives and National Library, they do this phosphine fumigation. And there you need a special chamber which degas to a higher level of atmosphere, because this phosphine gas is not good for human beings. So it's being evacuated into a higher level. And people who do this process need to wear protective clothes and goggles and masks and so on. And there are many traditional pest control methods used in archives as well as at our normal libraries. Like even for our personal collections, you can use them. Keeping naphthalene bowls on the rows of bookshelves is a common practice. Some librarians blend the neem leaves with naphthalene balls and wrap them by cotton cloth and hang books in bookshelves to get rid of insect pests. And keeping dried root of savandra was practiced in ancient time to protect books from insect pests. Keeping dried root of savandra and rosin or dummala oil is an insect repellent which apply to palm leaf manuscripts to protect from insects. And also they have a insect repellent power, and also they protect palm leaves and other paper documents from fungi and insect pests. And application of citronella oil on bookshelves after removing documents, reshelving of books to be done after drying the oil on shelves. And also there is another okanda, we named it as okanda, which has an extract from neem available in the National Archives. That of course could be sprayed on the document. It is a water extract. It takes little time to dry off, but it gives protection from insects as well as it de-acidifies the paper as well. I mean, from one stone, kill two birds. Now, the conservation of palm leaf manuscripts. To control fungi and bacteria on palm leaf manuscripts, camphor oil, neem oil, and citronella oil have been used by our ancestors. Fumigation for insects have been done using phosphine, and also for fungi, thymol fumigation is being done in the institutions, and thymol is a white crystal, and in this particular chamber you can light a 45-watt bulb for 4 hours each day for 7 days, and it diminishes the fungus. Of course, fungus to be removed first, and it will prevent further growth of fungi with this thymol fumigation. And also, if the custodians cannot do this conservation treatment, and they could always get assistance, get a training or get some advice or get some personnel who know about this process from the National Library and National Archives. For illegible writings, re-blackening to be done using gadumba charcoal or lamp black and rosin oil. Excess oil could be removed by wiping with rice bran and kuraham powder. And when the palm leaf manuscripts are subjected to water damage and get stuck leaves, it is to be exposed to steam using a kettle. If not, insert in a bath filled with warm water, very small amount of glycerine or glycol, it could loosen the sticking leaves of palm leaf manuscripts. If kamba is missing, need to put kambas with very good planks made out of good wood. And if the codes are weak, need to replace them with nylon code number 10, which has archival standards. And conservation of audiovisual material, of course, it's very hard to conserve them. Prevention is better than cure. Hence, conservation is to be done only when it is very much in need. Regular inspection and cleaning would avoid damages to all AV materials. Photographs, if they have fungus, of course, 2% solution of thymol in industrial methylated spirit could be used. If the photographs are faded, one can take another image of those and print them as new photographs. And microfilms or slides, in case of microfilms, regular rewinding in a proper manner using professional equipment and could avoid many types of damages. If there are fungus, as I said earlier, thymol and IMS solution would do. Cinefilms, regular inspection and rewinding to be done, and always remember to use professional equipment. And if there are side cuts in films, you can do splicing using film cement or ultrasound splicer. When there are other damages, it is always advised to make a duplicate. And audio tapes, cassettes and discs, it is very rarely one could do conservation treatment, and always advised to preserve them. In case it cannot be used, a duplicate to be prepared. Some points mentioned in audio tapes also equally applies to videotapes and cassettes. And preservation, for preservation you need to have proper shelving and proper storage. Good storage will promote collection well and minimize the risk of infestation of mold and insects, chemical and physical deterioration. Shelves should be out of inert material and appropriate to the size of its content. And this is how those have been stored, like in boxes or in volumes. And CDs, there are storage like this, and the film repository, they have been stored in a proper manner with all controlled temperature and humidity conditions. And dust cleaning is a must in collections. Shelves and books should be dusted regularly. Dust can be abrasive, may contain pollutants, and will foster mold growth and pest infestation. Maintain proper environmental condition. Control of temperature and relative humidity is critical in the preservation of collections, because an unacceptable level of either contributes significantly to the breakdown of materials. And maintaining temperature 22 to 22 Celsius using air conditioners, and relative humidity 45 to 50% using dehumidifiers for paper records are essential. If somebody doesn't have those facilities, then at least you should have ceiling fans, or some normal air should come in, but be careful about the dust coming in. If you open the windows and keep it, be aware of it. And damage can be minimized by providing ultraviolet screening film on windows, by pulling curtains, by fitting UV filters on artificial lighting, by switching lights off when areas are unoccupied, and by storing material in boxes. Damage which occur due to light could be minimized by those things. And security planning is very essential. You know, there had been incidents that paper cuttings were taken, sometimes all some of the pieces are being missing and all that. So security is a must. and to prevent theft and mutilation, and especially electronic security systems now available, radio frequency identification or EM strips to be used in institutions, of course not in private collections, because only you and the family members will be using your private collection. Security to be manned manually, and the security guard should be more vigilant, and acquisition of multiple copies of textbooks that are of high demand, and annual stock-taking exercise to identify missing books. And also, if institution could provide cheap photocopying services, so that would avoid theft as well. And disaster management, we have to plan for that and maintain disaster management system, and especially there should be fire protections, and there should be no water leakages and things like that. So actually these things happen, disasters could happen due to negligence and lack of building maintenance, not applied preventive measures and establish a disaster management plan to prevent disasters. Disaster plan consists in different phases, like prevention, preparedness, response, recovery. And if there is a disaster plan, every institution should have. There should be teams involved in it. If a disaster could happen, then one has to act fast. And audiovisual material, there are preservation measures and recommendations. Clean, clear space should be there. No eating, drinking, or exposure to smoke around original audiovisual material. Need to wash hands before handling AV material, and proper storage necessary to control the temperature and relative humidity in storage areas. Ideal conditions could vary according to the type of material. They have to be maintained by air conditioning and fixing dehumidifiers. And for audiovisual material, normally temperature 12 to 15 Celsius and relative humidity 40 to 45. For color material, of course, 4 to 6 degrees Celsius and 35 to 40% RH would be recommended. And permanent storage boxes and equipment to be used for photographs, acid-free envelopes, and if necessary, albums of archival standards to be prepared. For tapes and cassettes also, flame-retardant boxes, sealed plastic bags, and sealed containers to be used. For disc, acid-free cardboard boxes, acid-free sleeves could be used. For cinefilms, plastic cans, or unrusted metal cans in non-corrosive racks one can store. Storage area should be free from mechanical field. Regular checkups and quality control is very essential. Inspection, chemical testing, and ultrasonic or hand cleaning to be done regularly. Most types of AV material need to be rewind at least once a year with appropriate tension. And proper handling, hand gloves to be used, and usage of professional equipment without defects is a must. If an equipment is malfunctioned, it could cause damage to the tape, cassette, and disc. And always it is advisable to use island-wide available suppliers and who could do proper servicing, and maintenance of equipments to be done. And there should be a regular program for rewinding and checking and all that. And quality material should be used always. And preservation techniques, of course, we know that microfilming is one of the techniques. Of course, nowadays it is it is not a very famous trend nowadays. Digitization is the famous trend, but microfilming is still continued in some of the places, because if the microfilm is properly developed and processed and keep them under proper storage conditions, it will have more than 100 years lifetime. But if you put them onto a digital media, you will have lifetime for a short period, and either after 5 years or 7 years, you have to transfer the data into another format or another same type of advanced technology. So microfilm is always a better option, but unfortunately nowadays they don't have new microfilm machines, and also I heard that microfilms are also not in production, it seems. But anyway, as a preservation tool, even microfilms could be scanned, and digitization is, this is a matte scanning process. There they use TIFF format, and then from TIFF they transfer it to PDF archival format. Both formats are being preserved in servers and also in a backup copy at the National Archives. So digitization and imaging of books is a method of preservation with increasing demand in digital era. The process is also in use to maintain information that would otherwise be lost due to the degradation of historic books. Digitization for preservation is becoming an increasingly useful tool in the preservation of cultural heritage. And as conclusion, I would like to mention Sri Lanka has taken valuable steps for preservation and conservation of documentary heritage, and most of the images are with the courtesy of the Department of National Archives, which I have used, and also with the courtesy of internet, whoever has produced on the internet. And thank you, Professor Chandrasekhara, for inviting me for this lecture, and also thank you for all of you for listening to this boring lecture. But I'm happy that you all are here. Thanks again. Okay. Sorry for the extra time I have taken.
Unlike books which can be read even 500 years in the future, all these digital methods of storage for the last 50 years have all lasted for about 5 years and changed. Everything is going digital, fine, but what about all the archives that where you can no longer read those cassettes, or you can no longer read those tapes, which mean that unless those tapes are converted to a current format, we lose all that material. Yes. Even the films needs to be digitized. So how much is the National Archives doing to convert all the tape material and all the audiovisual materials into a new digital format, which at least you can copy and recopy onto new digital hard drives, which are becoming increasingly available?
Yes, Yes, actually, I'm happy to mention that all the tapes, sound tapes, magnetic tapes, have been digitized at the National Archives. We had a special equipment purchased for it from overseas, and all these were on CDs, and we did 2 copies each, because by any chance if one gets damaged, there should be another extra copy. And also, all the films at the National Archives have been digitized, cine films, and they are on Blu-rays. And there are cassettes. They are also have been copied into digital media. But I don't think entire collection have been done yet, but they are in the process. And also National Archives will be having a trusted digital repository in the near future. The new Director General is doing quite a lot of work with that aspect. Because she's trying to get all the new technology into this and do this. And also, I know that she had obtained some funds from the International Council on Archives as well. So I think in the near future, there will be digital storage of the archives, but in another 50 years' time, somebody who will be there to look into how it could be done at that time. Yes.
This is regarding the archive itself, not the preservation.
Yeah.
I find that when I go to the archive and look for stuff which are older than 50 years, most of that material is there. But if I go to the archives and try to look for things like reports and whatever, which are more recent,
Yeah.
I find that I have discovered that most of them have never been written and therefore never been submitted to the archives. And
Naturally.
so that documentation is not present. It has not come to the archives and it has not been reserved. So there is this problem that I have written letters, right to information to the central bank,
Yeah.
and asked for information which was 20 years old, and they said we don't have it. And this is information that they had before, which means that they should have been properly archived, which means they're old files on production of currency notes. Now I can find information of currency notes of the Dutch era, but I can't find information about production of currency notes 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So how do the archives force the places like the central bank and all who do that to provide the information to actually archive it so that it will be available for research in the future?
Actually, according to the National Archives Act number 48 of 1973, there is a clause in it. Central bank should send a specimen of every currency note and a coin to the National Archive. They have been coming in. During my period also they came in. I mean, they have been properly kept at the National Archives.
I'm talking about information about the production,
Information,
like
yeah.
serial numbers and that sort of thing.
Yeah, information, of course, I mean, they should send. I mean,
Yeah.
they know we preserve it. But unfortunately, not many government organizations think about that. They just think, what is this old document? But we can't change their attitude, or we can't change their brain into a situation where one could think the importance of this. Although we have been trying, we train people from many government institutions yearly, but they come and listen to lectures. When we ask them to do the schedules and all that, they hardly do. So we don't have an authority, although we have legal authority, but we can't push them. I mean, I have been amending this act, putting penalties even to the head of the institutions. If they don't send them, they should go to jail or something like that. But unfortunately, I went on retirement, and now the new DG is already done a new act with all these concerns. So I hope it will be on board in the future by forcing all the, especially government institutions, because they are under the government, so they should listen to the rules and regulations of the government, and these legislatives to be enacted.
Now, recently, Nadira put me into a Dutch archive, which had the VOC archives from 1684 to 1794,
Yeah.
which consisted, must be about 150,000 pages, volumes of all the minutes of their minutes,
Dutch council
minutes, and they're all there, and
Yeah.
they're all online in Holland, and you can access it and search it. But there is no way that you can access 20-year-old stuff in Sri Lanka, because they have been destroyed or not been archived at all,
Yeah,
which is
because
very sad.
it is very sad. Yeah, even administration reports. Normally we provide administration reports yearly, but now they don't provide those as well. So it is very bad.
Maybe can I ask one question? Now,
Yeah.
what is the advice that you give? Because most of these, I think the members in the audience, as well as we have private collections, small collections.
Yeah.
What is the best method to keep it? Now, when you see color photographs, after some time they get bonded together.
Yeah.
And whether to, I think it's better to keep it not like this, maybe in this way, books,
Yeah. Yeah. Books.
because there's no weight for the bottom page.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the light, is it advisable to keep them in a blackout room?
Yeah, light is always harmful, especially sunlight, which contains UV radius. And also, normally, if you can keep it, that's what I said, when unoccupied, put it off the lights, because light is always harmful. And the other thing is, if you have photographs, either you should put them on sleeves, or otherwise you can have an album made into a archival standard. Like, I mean, if you all recall your parents, or your old albums which were in use by your parents, those were with black papers and with tissue paper. That is the best way to keep photographs. Not like this plastic, polythene and all that, then they get stuck. So I advise, if you all can get someone to prepare albums in old manner and put your photographs into corners that normally you don't paste them, you have corners to insert, and only corners fixed on the paper, the black paper. And likewise you can keep photographs for many years. And also, especially for books, you have to clean them regularly, which is a bit difficult if you have a big collection. But regularly, if you make it to a point that the way you love books, you have to preserve them as well. So because of that, if you have a small vacuum cleaner, handheld vacuum cleaner, you can clean them easily. And also better to expose, like if you have air conditioner in your library, that's well and good. If not, at least you should ventilate them. Like, there should be fresh air at least coming in. Or otherwise you have to use fans for giving them some ventilation. I always tell, like humans, even the documents need breathing. They are with life. Although we think they are lifeless, there is a life in it. So you have to consider them as a life and you have to treat them as such. If you do protect them from damages, if you check them regularly, then you would know whether there are any insect attacks or fungi attacks or whatnot. So if there is a problem, you can always get them corrected. And you can always get some advice from these institutions which they have expertise on. So it would be easy. Earlier there were booklets we printed in the archives about for small technical things for preservation and audiovisual material and so on. Yeah?
There are those books still available.
Yeah, so you all can get them free of charge. So if you need, you can ask them. So
Okay, so we'll try to wind this session today, but I know she's working very hard. At the moment, she works with the vocational university in developing syllabuses to train people at NVQ level for archival material preservation and conservation. Probably if we can also get people who are trained, maybe even we can use them for our private collections, ask them to come and on freelance basis do it. So she is contributing in that way. So on behalf of National Trust, it's my pleasure to thank Dr. Vetta Singha for coming here today and enlightening us on the importance, the causes of deterioration, the importance of preservation, and the methods of conservation and preservation of archival material. Before we wind up, I have a duty, that is to in appreciation of a lecture, to give a small token of appreciation published by the National Trust and a certificate.
thank you very much.
Okay, we have refreshments outside. We can enjoy. Thank you very much. සාමාන්‍ය මේ හෝල් එක පිරලා ඉන්නේ. මේ ගානට වඩා ටිකක් ඉන්නවා. අද වැස්ස හින්දා.